Hey guys, I just wanted to make a quick video to kind of clarify a few things regarding the assignment for this week and what carries over to next week. So as you guys know, we are very near the end of the semester, so we are really working on finishing things up. Now, last week you turned in or this past Sunday, you turned in your persuasive essays. Thank you for those of you who got those done. Several of them didn't quite follow the details, the directions, the guidelines of the assignments. So do please pay attention when those things are provided for you. Now, in general, for this fifth or fourth and final essay, what you're going to be doing is adding research to what you've already written. So let's assume, for the sake of example, that you turned in your persuasive essay, you did a solid job, you wrote 5 paragraphs designed to persuade and argue a specific point. You get your feedback and you have a grade, a solid grade, an A or whatever. And so from that, say for example, you wrote about polluting the ocean. So now what I'm asking you to do is to use some of the resources that I've posted, go online, find credible resources using both the library databases and Google or other popular search engines, find articles, read them, and include 3 quotes from 3 different sources in the body of your essay. So in general, you're not writing a totally new essay. You are taking a paragraph that already exists and based on your feedback on your persuasive essay, making any grammar changes or making any content changes and adding quotes to strengthen your argument. So with that in mind, just want to kind of keep in mind the reason why we've been doing it this way or why we did it this way is because the goal was to work with research, but I wanted it to be in a way that allowed you to express your voice first, right? Because oftentimes when we're working on research or we're writing research, we tend to just immediately go to the internet and find the ideas of other people and compile them. And sometimes that leads to intentional or unintentional plagiarism. So for the first essay, the persuasive essay, what I wanted you to do was to just write based on what you already had in your brain, the ideas that you already had about whatever topic you wanted to choose. So then from that, your goal is to add the research so that you are joining a conversation and not just simply parroting what other people online have already said. So specifically, excuse me, what I'm asking you to do is to identify, read, and include information from 3 credible online resources to support the argument that you've already presented in your persuasive essay. This information should come from news or research publications. Of course, you don't want to use a blog or Wikipedia or anything like that that is overtly agenda driven, such as if you're writing about gun control and you use the NRA website. So that is a specific agenda that is presented with that website. So instead, what I want you to use is the library, right? Richmond Community College has an excellent library database. I've linked several of the resources there for you to use. And there are some other videos on Moodle that are kind of walking you through how to use those resources. But in general, the goal is to take your persuasive essay and add to it. That doesn't mean that you're adding pages. In general, we want to keep it kind of simple. I want you to find credible sources. For this week, you're just submitting your works cited page. And then next week, prior to the end of the semester, which is on the 15th, what you're going to do is turn in that persuasive essay, except now you're adding in research. So just to kind of show you an example, if we look at this sample paper that was posted on Moodle regarding the persuasive essay, if you take your time and read through this, and I'll post this example as well, you see that the introduction doesn't change, the conclusion doesn't change, and in general, the body of the essay doesn't change. However, the highlighted portions now include information that is designed to strengthen the integrity of your argument, okay? So you've already presented your points. Now I'm asking you to add in some published data or information or research or journal articles so that your points are strengthened. So for example, in this one about reality television, the first point that this writer makes to support the argument, keep in mind, you are writing an argument. So your tone should not simply be informative. It should be not necessarily aggressive, but think back to some of those persuasive tactics, right? How is it that you use rhetorical appeals, logic, emotion, ethics to convince people to support a particular point of view? So here, this writer's thesis statement, and I just want to point this out because several of your papers do need revision in regards to the thesis statement. So here the writer says, because of the constant stereotypical, immoral, and unrealistic examples of adulthood, parents should not allow their teenage children to watch most reality TV shows. So here, there's the argument. Parents should not, must not, cannot. In that, also notice that the target audience is identified. This is a paper directed toward parents, and the goal is to convince them not to let their teenagers watch reality TV, or at least trashy reality television, for lack of a better word. So, here, the first point that this writer makes is that although many people may not consider this, reality television is largely built on problematic stereotypes that exist in society. So, this writer presents the first argument that the reason why parents should not allow their teenagers to watch some reality shows is because they build on stereotypes. So then the writer goes on, based on her own opinions, ideas, experiences, to talk about the stereotypes that are presented in reality television and why that's problematic. Now, to enhance this paragraph, this highlighted portion is a quote from an article written by Ariel Miller. And let's just go back and read through this entire paragraph. So, a quick glance at current view and options will reveal that most shows are centered around being members of a certain group or community. Each show is developed based on a particular type of people, and many are grouped based on socioeconomic status, geographic location, ethnicity, culture, or careers. On the surface, it may seem beneficial to educate viewers about the lives of others, but education is not the goal. For example, shows like Swamp People, Party Down South, or Here Comes Honey Boo Boo all claim to provide a glimpse into the lives of those living in the American South. However, watching these shows would lead viewers to believe that Southerners are trashy, backwoods, uneducated country bumpkins. This presents a problem when those who don't live in the South watch these shows and form ideas and opinions about the region solely based on the stereotypes that are exploited. Here's the quote. As stated by Ariel Miller, our persistent and curious infatuation with reality television is dangerous because it continues to perpetuate the negative stereotypes because producers are forced to construct individual and cultural identities that are perhaps not representative of reality. This offensive stereotypical view that is supposed to be reality is really just some producers' clownish misrepresentation of people who they deem laughable. Unfortunately, many teenagers don't have the experience or maturity to filter through these stereotypes, thus growing up believing that the media's perception is accurate to real life. I want you to notice in that paragraph the layering that takes place. The point that is made very clearly with the introduction, the analysis that the writer is able to build based on her own thoughts, opinions, ideas, observations, experiences, and then the way the quote seamlessly supports the point that is already there. You want to make sure that you also notice how the quote is introduced, right? The quote is not just dropped there like an orphan with no parentage. There is an introduction to the quote, and then the quote is not the last thing on the paragraph. In the paragraph, it is followed up by commentary. So your goal is to do just that. In addition, you'll notice with this posted example that all of the quotes are very brief and highlighted, and then you get down to the works cited page. Your works cited page needs to be MLA formatted following 8th edition guidelines. I've posted a number of resources to help you construct your MLA citations, but you want to make sure that it is also double spaced, hanging indent, arranged in alphabetical order, and most importantly, not just a list of hyperlinks, okay? Notice it includes all of the important information. And again, there's a number of resources on Moodle to help you do this. Please do use those resources. Another thing I want to point out that I failed to mention earlier here is notice The author's name is mentioned to introduce the quote, so that's all that's needed. However, with this one, the author's name is not used to introduce the quote, so it is placed in parentheses at the end of the quoted material. So here, the quote simply says, in fact, an article published by the Clay Center for Youth for Young Healthy Minds acknowledges that. So all of that is introduced in the quote. And then the quote says, reality TV typically reveals inappropriate behavior within peer groups, often promoting interpersonal drama, aggression, and bullying. And the person who wrote that, her last name or his last name is Peak. And so in parentheses, after the quoted material, we want to put the word Peak. There's no page number, so you don't need to include a page number. Now, later on, we have again where the author's names are indicated before the quote, so you don't need to repeat it. All right. Like I said, there's a number of resources on Moodle to help you get this done. The goal is to please make sure that we're following directions, looking at the resources, and if you have any specific questions, let me know. So in general, between now and December 15th, you have two assignments. The first is to simply submit this week, focus on finding your sources and submit a page that looks like this. Okay, a page of citations. And next week, before midnight on the 15th, because that's the end of the semester, to turn in the final paper, which is the persuasive essay with the research added. I hope that this clarifies for anyone who was a little bit confused, and my apologies if it was not clear from the beginning. If you have any particular questions, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I will hopefully get your work soon, and so you can look forward to seeing your final grade by next Wednesday. Thank you, and have a great day.